Welcome back to another episode of Steaming Pie with Lauren and Tucker. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Tucker.
Tucker, you know the phrase that comedy is tragedy plus time. Like that's like the general rule of thumb with what comedy is.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yes. So I think there's another facet to it, and that is thing plus emotional response. Because we watched a 15-minute diatribe on the rules of Air Bud and how the movie's premise is inherently absurd. And that's hilarious. But it's such a minor thing. That movie's as old as I am.
Mm-hmm. Having
a conversation about it at all, let alone one because you have beef with the movie, I think is funny. And I think that's true. I think, things like public freakouts are only funny because we find the quantity of things worth freaking out about is so small in that scenario.
Yes. I feel like we're going to have to start using Greek letters in this new equation you're coming up with to calculate comedy. But yes. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Good work, Dr. Lauren.
Because there's tons of like little things throughout that it's like the smaller a thing you decide to pay attention to and extrapolate upon, like the funniest it gets. And I don't know if that's just because by staring at something so small you find all of the absurdities in it, but it just works. Like there's a video, so there's an anime and there's a video. There's an anime where this homicidal lunatic with a book, he is like going through his internal monologue, and he very strategically eats a potato chip and narrates that whole thing about like, and now I will take a potato chip and then I'll eat it. And analyzing that scene is inherently funny because the scene itself takes the simple act of eating a potato chip and escalates it to these Machiavellian levels.
Yes.
And I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you familiar with Lasagna Cat?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like it's a very similar concept, right? Mm-hmm. Especially the 1.5 hour, I forget who was narrating it, but just the deep dive into justice inane comic.
Yeah.
But yeah, exploded moments generally lend themselves to comedy. But why? Is it just because it subverts an expectation that you shouldn't care about a thing so minute?
I think it's more that someone else would care so deeply. And maybe it's only because, like, slackers happened that stuff like this is funny. That it became funny to laugh at people who cared deeply. And maybe it goes back further. But I'm not sure. Not sure about how far back it goes. Like people made fun of hippies for caring about things. And people made fun of teenage girls for fawning over the Beatles, but it was also the first time they were allowed to be horny in public. And
are these the same things though? Is this because these feel inherently different from overanalyzing something for the sake of comedy?
No, this isn't new, or maybe it is new. I don't know, because I remember there's a journal entry from Thomas Jefferson, and he like breaks his wrist trying to impress a woman, and just like the despair that he has in that moment seems really funny because we've all been there.
Yeah,
not necessarily breaking our wrists, but we've been there, and I think that's where the time comes in.
Interesting. I mean, and also, I think it's funny because it's just the juxtaposition of he's a founding father.
Yes.
It's almost impossible to think of him as any other way.
I think of him as the weird guy on the currency.
Yep. He's not on cash, right? He's just on the nickel.
He is on the 3.
Excuse me?
I think he's on the $3 bill.
What's the $3 bill?
Or maybe the 2. He's on the $2 bill.
Is he?
Yeah.
First off, are you just saying the $3 bill because you Is there a $3 bill? There's not.
I'm like 72% sure.
There's no. There's no
like
way.
It's I feel like there is. I feel like it's one of those things where it was put out, but because it was so rare and new, people just like pulled it out of circulation because they're like, "Ooh, I have a $3 bill now."
I don't believe you.
He is on the 2.
He is on the 2? Okay.
And maybe he's on the 3.
I don't think that exists. I can't find anything. Am I being punked? You seem so
$3
sure.
bill. Yeah. $3 bill.
There's a nightclub in Brooklyn. Is that what you're talking about? That's the only thing I can see here, really. Novelty paper money. Interesting.
Yeah, no.
A euphemism for homosexual, generally a male homosexual.
What? That to me is more absurd than the $3 bill just not existing.
Why did it get that? Oh, I think it takes. I think it follows the logic. $3 bills are strange. Strange can mean queer. Queer can mean homosexual. I think that's the path that etymology took.
I could see that as being the reason. Yeah.
Or maybe it's this says something about. This says Joe Exotic said it. I'm Joe Exotic and I'm gayer than a $3 bill. Has a lot of downvotes. I don't know. I don't believe it. That's I've never heard that before in my life. Never. $3 bill. What have you brought upon this cursed land, Lauren?
This is my attempt at gaslighting. I need to gain the trilogy before I turn 30, and it's it's harder than you would think. If you're not going at it with malicious intent, it's so hard to say things and just keep rolling with it. Mm-hmm. Because immediately if someone's like, "Is that so?" I'm like, "I don't know. Check it for yourself." You just Googled $3 bill. I could have kept you going no. I could have been like, "Oh yeah, no, Thomas Jefferson's on the $2 bill, but it's James K. Polk who's on the $3 bill." And it was really popular from like 1914 to 1933, but World War I, it wasn't profitable to print anymore.
At that point, I don't know if I would. I guess I would have to believe you at that point, because that seems like esoteric knowledge that someone like you would be proud of having.
That's
and
the
so
thing.
it'd be like, knowing what I know about Lauren, I feel like she's researched this. She's spent a couple hours on the internet diving down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I would concede. I would be like, all right, I can't find it on the internet, but I guess you have browsed forums more than I have. You have sunk in the time. You have done the due diligence. You have gaslit me.
The key to gaslighting is to sandwich the falsity, the thing that tweaks a person's world, between not 2, but 3 things. You open with a true thing, you follow it up with the gaslighting, and then you follow it up with 2 more things that have to be to the same obscurity or more obscure.
Now we're really breaking this down to a science.
Yes.
Nice.
That helps with the girl boss part.
Oh, okay. So then how do you... so does gaslighting come first? Is this a 3-step program? Which one comes first?
In the vernacular, I do believe it is gaslight that comes first.
Okay, but is that the easiest one? Is that the one you should complete first?
In this specific instance, gatekeep is actually easiest, because if I open that this is a gaslight gatekeep girl boss moment, I can immediately tell you, and you can't because you're a guy.
Okay. So let's say you go gatekeep first, and then you ascend to the plane of gaslighting. And then finally, what does it take? Now that you have those 2 notches in your belt, what does it take to become the girl boss in the vernacular?
I think it's a repeat offender thing.
Oh, you just got to keep doing it. You got to keep keeping the gates and
because
laying the gases.
Exactly, because regional managers, they oversee like a handful of people. It's basically a pyramid scheme.
Yep.
And eventually, we'll take out the ultimate girl boss. Not sure who that is yet.
Oh my. That would be a fight I would watch. Regional
Probably the Queen of England.
I
think the Queen of England is the ultimate Gaslight Gatekeep girl boss. Gaslight gaslit the whole world into believing that England was a country and that it was a cool country. Gatekeep, she's the only one who could be queen. And girl boss, by doing those other two things. Yeah.
She's still alive.
Yeah.
Incredible, really. Didn't she make it through COVID?
Yes. Now, she's vanished. I don't think she's made a public appearance. She's going through her phases.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know if they have her in an incubator, if they're taking the skin to put it on a new exoskeleton or an endoskeleton, I guess.
But it sounds like she's turning into a beautiful butterfly. The Queen's phases, not her gametes, her phases. Entering a new phase of reign. That was in November.
I think she was supposed to. Yeah, I don't know if she's made an appearance. Has the Queen made an appearance since disappearing?
I think the palace is trying to phase her out a bit and let Charles and Will and Kate pick up the slack.
Oh,
Possibly.
She made. So on March 2nd, she made a public appearance for the first time after rumors circulated that she died of COVID.
But so then someone saw her.
Saw her.
Well, I mean, yes. I don't think we have a Dave situation, though. I think if the Queen dies, the Queen's... I mean, do you think they're going to hide the death of the Queen in England? Come on now. What would be their impetus? Why would they do that?
Either they just really don't like Charles or they just really don't like Will.
Well, I mean...
Would they Dave it so much as Weekend at Bernie's this?
They could. They could. The problem is the smell. you could do a lot about the other stuff, but you can't really... You would have to like... what's the word I'm looking for? Mummify her immediately.
Yes. Although, of all the public figures to fake their death and prop them up Weekend at Bernie style, I do feel like the Queen is the best candidate. Because if the Queen reeks of newt death, are you going to be the guy to be like, yo, the Queen smells rank?
I guess not. I'm going to say it to her face. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair. Okay. How's Stalin looking? They did a good job. They did a good job mummifying him, right? Preserving him.
Lenin. They did a good job. Yeah, Lenin is embalmed, and you can still visit his corpse, I think.
He's still looking good?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
As far as I know.
They did it to Mao Zedong too, right?
Probably.
Did they do it to the two Kim Jongs?
What, are there two? I thought it was just the one.
No, the two dead ones.
There are two?
Oh, I'm sorry. Kim Il Sung and then Kim Jong Il. And now Kim Jong Un.
Whoa, wait.
Is this...
So I'm looking at Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
And yes, he was mummified. There's a whole Wikipedia called Mummipedia.
There you go.
Yeah, he was tall. He was almost 6 feet tall.
That's really tall. Especially for an Asian man.
After his death, Mao's body... Yeah. After his death, Mao's body was moved to a spacious room where the temperature of the entire building was lowered to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Maybe
what?
negative?
Negative 500 Fahrenheit? What?
The entire building was lowered to 500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Is that possible?
I don't know.
I lose all sense of scale on Fahrenheit once it gets to those extremes.
Well, you can't... What was the temperature? What's a specious room? But the specialists permanently preserved the body by injecting 22 liters of formaldehyde within 48 hours of his death. After the injection, Mao's face was bloated and his body was swollen. His skin was shiny and the formaldehyde oozed from his pores like perspiration.
Yikes. So
Vacuum sealed coffin.
negative 500 degrees Fahrenheit is negative 295 degrees Celsius, which is impossible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's negative Kelvin. You can't have that. Okay. But yeah, so that's it's such an interesting process.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing recently, I think, as in like the last 3 years, there was a scientist in Mexico who was able to take corpses and rehydrate them. And they're doing this because when a body gets dried up and it becomes mummified and whatnot, just due to natural process, you can no longer get like identifying marks off of them.
Oh yeah.
But he's developed this, for lack of a better word, slurry, where if you soak a body in it, it will basically rehydrate to what it looked like more or less before it died. So you can see things like tattoos and
wow.
other shapes of structures. It's impressive. It's impressive stuff.
That is really cool. Yeah.
I think he's patenting it. Yeah.
I nearly went into forensic pathology.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I like the thought of like working backwards from the point of death to determine cause of death.
Mm-hmm.
We used to watch Dr. G Medical Examiner, which was a show on the Discovery Channel that was all about autopsies. And like the thought of dissecting a body wasn't the worst thing. And I had a friend who was in the nursing program and she brought the cadaver book from her cadaver labs. And so the pictures of the cadavers weren't the worst thing. I think what ended up turning me off was either going to medical school or the smell. And I don't remember which of those it was.
They both suck.
Yeah.
But I wonder if becoming a doctor for dead people is less stress than being a doctor for alive people. Or if you just numb out of that as well.
I think it depends on the kind of bodies you're expected to do autopsies for. Like if you are given like a recent hot button case, or you're given a celebrity's body, and everyone's like, so what drugs are in the system? It's like, well, none.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hate to be like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a forensic pathologist. It's not a coroner either.
To determine cause of death? Yeah.
Okay.
Because if a forensic pathologist is usually brought in if it's unclear, or especially if there's crime involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I still know all of the incisions that are required to begin the examination.
There you go.
Because you do a Y incision from like the shoulders down to the sternum and you cut down. Bolt cutters, I've learned, work better than whatever bone saws they have for the ribs.
Cool.
And then you do the brain from ear to ear.
Nice. Well, there you go. That's
yeah.
You missed your calling, I guess.
It's so I don't know. I don't know what the hours are like because I have found that I like the structure of the 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Even if like the work involved in a 9 to 5 is it is the ultimate trade-off.
Yeah.
It's like nothing I do will really matter in the grand scheme of things. It may help people out, it may help companies out, but it's only because it's only helping this scale of people that I can just drop everything and run
yeah.
at 5.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that is kind of the necessary trade-off with the vast majority of 9 to 5 jobs. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I think about how many jobs exist, and just so many people working. Wherever there's something to be done, there is a job, and it's unfathomable. Sometimes when I walk downtown in the city, you see all these buildings, and it's like I will have no idea what's inside of them ever. Yeah. It's like you're in GTA 5. You can't go in the buildings, and so they might just be hollow, but there's like full like basically cities inside of them. It's like it goes in forever. Essentially, it's like there's so much stuff, which is the most generic sentence I think ever. But
But yeah, no, there, and I know there are some buildings that are false buildings. They're just built to obscure, like oil things
Oh sure.
essentially.
Oh sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Or if
Industrial
not
things of
oil,
all
they
kinds.
yeah they obscure industrial stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, there's so many things where I'm like, I know these jobs have to exist fundamentally, but I have no idea who does it and where it happens.
And maybe you don't want to know.
True.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of
Yep.
jobs out there. There are people who basically their job is to all day filter the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that job has to suck.
oh yeah, yeah, it's emotionally horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, like just being a content moderator on Facebook for the unwashed masses. If their AI doesn't
my
pick it up
gosh.
immediately, then
Yeah.
you have to be the final decider, and it's like, ugh. There's some stuff.
Yeah. Because that reminds me of occasionally I'll get like Reddit threads on Ask Reddit of just like things you saw online that messed you up, and just the sheer amount of things that like are online and you can find
Yeah.
is astronomical,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to look that hard.
Not really, no. It's kind of the point.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. Now, the majority of those stories, especially ones that get into like the dark web, the big thing I take away is like, don't get into drugs.
Yeah.
Not even for like the physical ramifications, because those are, you can predict.
Yeah.
Your usage to physical toll. What you can't predict are the people you interact with to obtain drugs, and who those people interact with to obtain drugs, because 9 out of 10 times that's bad.
Yep. I've watched Breaking Bad. I get it.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah, my favorite story was when it was a person who's like 12 or 13 years old. They were hanging out with someone who's in their like late teens, early 20s. And the older kid was like, hey, I need to go visit a friend. Hang out in the car. Sit low in the car. Just quick in and out.
Sure, yeah.
And the person goes inside the house. And this guy comes up and starts pounding on the front door. The 12-year-old is still in the car. And the phone rings in like the cup holder, and it's an unknown number, but they still answer. And the person's like, hey, I'm using my friend's phone. Can you drive? And the person's like, no, I'm 12 years old. Of course I don't know how to drive. And the person's like, okay, hold on, I'll be right back. Like, why?
Yeah, that's frightening.
Yes.
Ugh.
I'm like, the highs, they can't be that good.
No, probably. I mean, they probably are. Let's be honest. I mean, you have to surmise that if they're willing to go through all of this trouble, that it's got to be great.
You got a point.
Yeah. It's probably really good. It's chemistry. It's really good, really good chemistry.
Chemistry is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the things, the delicate balance that the human body just exists in all the time freaks me out, and that you can take chemicals to alter that.
Yeah.
Bonkers. But also that your everyday chemistry is holding you back because you're physically strong enough to break yourself.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I ate a Golden Corral last night and I'm still alive. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. From either Golden Corral. Either of those will take it out of you.
It will be, just to be clear, I ate at the buffet with food
not
like pot
experience.
roast. Yes. Not the other kind of buffet where
the Michelin
food,
starred.
Like, it's, right? Anyway.
Speaking of that reminded me.
Oh, no.
In Freddy Got Fingered, there is a full-on horsecock just visible.
Okay.
And it is massive.
Oh yeah, they're huge.
And like, I don't know if that's a going size for horses. or if that
Yes.
particular horse, because he's a Hollywood horse.
Oh, you think he sung better? No, they're huge. They're huge. They're big. They're really big. Not like King Kong, but they're huge.
Right.
You seem to have trouble grasping this metaphorically, of course.
Like, is it just out all the time? Because otherwise,
No.
like...
No, it hides. It's shy.
Oh, they're showers, not growers. Okay.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
are they growers?
They're growers, not showers. But they're just
Okay.
they're just completely hidden, right?
Animal peni are weird.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Aren't the... See, I think it's the lions that's barbed. I think it's the ducks that's a corkscrew.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pig that can have a 30-minute long orgasm.
Yes.
That's gotta be exhausting. It's gotta be so exhausting. Insects die.
Typically, yeah. I know there are... I think it's not mandrills. They're not bonobos either. Japanese snow monkeys. Those are just out all the time.
In the snow?
Yeah,
Poor guys.
I know. But they also they have like a whole hot springs dedicated to them, so they hang out in there a
so they
lot.
can-
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was in the pool. Animal penises. Anyway,
Yeah.
look. We're not above it. We're not above it.
No, it's for scientific purposes,
Sure.
and if we can have those conversations, scientists can too.
Exactly.
And they can run whole studies around it.
Of course, just about massive horse cock. Just massive. Like this, the size of my arm. Huge.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. Incredible.
Yeah, because that's like pandas. Because pandas do have penises, but they just don't care to use them, and so you have to have there's a whole job around jacking off pandas,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you see.
so they don't go
mentioned this,
extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a job.
it is a job.
That there are a lot of jobs, and that is one of them.
I think that is one of the jobs that it would be insulting if it wasn't enough to cover living expenses.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
what you mean jacking off pandas isn't enough? I have to DoorDash as well.
Make sure to wash your hands first. Imagine. Oh no. Oh no. Imagine having to DoorDash in a supplemented job like that. Oh. That's a funny image. That's good.
Clock in, cock out.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh. Yeah. Have you noticed? Maybe you don't, because I think you own a car. Lyft prices have been getting very high. Like incredibly high. Like disproportionately high. To the point where sometimes Uber is a better option.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. And I think
But
it's not
no.
just it's not just gas prices. I think it's just I think a lot of things are, have taken advantage of not only, the current goings-ons, but also like the last 2 years.
Yes.
Things are just expensive now because of unprecedented times, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that they'll ever come back down, regardless of inflation, because now that they've gotten away with it, and people are just used to it now, and I haven't been able to prove it because it's hard to prove.
Yeah.
I don't know how to prove it, but when I do,
I think you have to take the same trip at the same time to the same destination.
Well, even then, that's unpredictable.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah. because I mean, it's incredibly hard to predict the load on the system, and even then, maybe that's not even what's going on. It's also how many drivers are available. It's also, if they feel like it, right? It's just right.
And maybe it's stuff like that purposefully obscures the price going up. Is sure, there could be a predictable algorithm that determines how much you pay, but if they add in a couple of random variables,
you can't track.
You can't. Yeah, it's like the Amazon listing algorithm. You don't know how it's going to sort you, and how it determines certain like SEO stuff.
Yeah.
So you can't reverse engineer it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's smart. Reddit does that with their voting as well.
That is the one positive thing I could see if Elon actually follows through after he's bought Twitter. And he says he wants to make the sorting algorithm open source so people can see how and why stuff gets thrown in their timeline.
That would be cool.
It would.
I would be into that, yeah.
I would like the pressure it could potentially introduce to other sites. Be like, well, Twitter shows me how and why.
I wonder if that would even matter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Like, Twitter is in a position now where they could make the entire app open source, and even if someone clones them, it won't get, right? Like, Reddit's open source.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it is.
Do you see vote.co going anywhere? No. Do you see Parler going anywhere? No. It doesn't matter if it's open source or not. You can clone things. You can reverse engineer things. You can get close enough that it meaningfully doesn't matter. They're in a position now where it just doesn't matter if it's open source or not. I mean, unless there's something like something that you want to keep secret, like something intellectual property wise that you really cannot afford to let out. I don't know. I think also, not all security systems, but a vast majority of the security systems should be open source. It's the data inside of it that you cannot open source, because that's, if the methodology should be so secure that you can open source it and it doesn't matter. You should be using things that are so battle hardened that only if you knew the secrets of the actual running application, right? Like that should really be it. That should be the only way to get in. If you were to brute force it, which you can't. So I think that would be very interesting if Twitter even partially went open source, and I also don't think it would impact them at all. It would be a nice show of transparency. I mean, I can't think of a negative of that. Well, okay, so it's not a security system. You can figure out how to game it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like how people figured out how SEOs work.
Yeah.
And so they just flood their thing with whatever would trigger the SEO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I still think it's better than not, but that'll be very interesting to see how they optimize it for being open source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm undecided about that, but I'm leaning towards it's a good thing.
I think transparency is generally an okay thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but there's not much else you can be transparent about on Twitter.
Oh yeah, like people are
the sorting algorithm. The rest of it's just a cool database. That's really all it is. Yeah,
you're just getting the random thoughts of tens of thousands of people.
Yeah,
which that was the thing I thought about, because I follow some people who, because they're like what we call new and emerging authors, they have like Google alerts set up, so anytime they are mentioned, they can see it.
Yeah.
Why would you want that?
That's no.
that's like knowing there's someone there to kill you at all times, and occasionally they just pop up like a jack in the box. Ew.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why, if you were anyone of consequence. I wonder at what point you jump the bridge to being too, not important, but too big to have that kind of direct relationship with people. Where do you jump that? And is it different for every industry?
Probably.
Like, celebrities tweet. They don't always really respond to tweets, but some do. What's the difference? What line is being drawn, even if on accident? What line is being drawn there?
Because I nearly said, well, whoever has a social media manager and whoever doesn't. But I don't necessarily know that that would be the case, because I'm sure there are still people who respond who do have social media teams, and maybe it's social media teams through and through.
Mm-hmm.
But there have to be some who are just messy enough to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that's like big, like Tom Cruise? Does Tom Cruise even have a Twitter? Does Tom Cruise have any presence outside of movies and Scientology? I don't know that he does.
I could see that he has a Twitter, but I'm sure it's probably just pictures of him on set with filters from like 2014, where it's like, wow, so proud of the hashtag Mission Impossible crew. Come see Mission Impossible 9, October 18th.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yep. Yep.
Like, I'm picturing those green and orange filters.
It's
just make those colors pop.
I guess it's less that and more just pictures from set. He's pumping Top Gun Maverick right now.
Ah, yes.
Oh, that reminds me. I saw the third the third one. The third
Did you?
What is it called? I don't even care enough to remember the name of the series. The third
one. People know what it is.
The third one.
Yeah.
Do people know what it is?
Based on the rough time this would come out, it is the only threequel out, I believe.
I watched the third one. It was have you seen it?
I've seen other people talk about it.
This was the best one, and it was still not good.
Ew! How could it possibly be the best?
Okay, look,
okay. If Mads Mikkelsen and Jude Law in a film, I'll give it that.
I felt less blue-balled than I did the last film. Yeah. Okay, first off,
I don't understand.
Who was talking to you? First off, okay. I realize it's called Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, but I cannot impress upon you enough how little I care about Newt Gingrich or whatever his name is. Newt Scamander. I don't care. Now, I should have known this going into the movies. But then they brought Dumbledore into it, who is by far, the most interesting character of the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
And what do? He is barely even a side character. Even though by the third movie, this arc is about him.
Yeah.
So I don't care about. First off, I don't care about Newt Scamander or his stupid friends. Don't care.
Yeah.
What the interesting trap that they fall into, and I noticed it a lot. The writing gets cringy, which I think is because these characters are wholesome and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can't help but write cringy dialogue. That's all they can say.
Yeah. That's
just poor character development. I don't think it's poor writing. I mean, at one point it was, but at this point it's not. These characters aren't complex at all. I don't, at least in this one, and I don't quite remember the other ones, but at least in this one, the third one, a Fantastic Beast played a central role.
Oh yeah, the
Right?
election deer.
The plot of the movie is they had the most powerful wizard in the world cannot hurt the other most powerful wizard in the world. So they have to take a deer up a mountain to prevent Wizard Hitler from being elected, right? There was no election. The deer picks.
Right.
And the deer is never wrong, except this one time where it was because it's dead. And they named Dumbledore's secrets. Okay, what is Dumbledore's secret? He's got the hots for Grindelwald. Okay.
Yeah.
And he maybe possibly killed his sister. But we already knew both of those. Mm-hmm. We knew he was hot for Grindelwald in the last one, right? J.K. Rowling told us years ago that he was gay. We didn't need a movie for it. Second, Aberforth explained that whole thing in the 7th, 8th Harry Potter? The 8th one, I think.
Yeah, one of those two, yeah.
What are the secrets of Dumbledore? There are no secrets of Dumbledore. It's like Victoria's Secrets. Everyone knows.
Yeah. No, that was a classic one where as I was reading the comments on the video, it's just buckets upon buckets of better ideas. Mm-hmm. Because it's like they can't fight because of this charm thing, I think. And someone's like, why not just have it that Dumbledore can't kill Grindelwald because whatever love magic that Lily put on Harry, Dumbledore put on Grindelwald. And that's why Dumbledore understood in the first book. But
that
no.
Could be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But on the J.K. Rowling tells us he was gay. She did. Mm-hmm. And the comments on that same video go into depth of what that announcement actually was. So the whole reason she came out and said that was because they were filming the 5th movie. And Dumbledore was going to tell Harry about a girl that he liked. And J.K. Rowling's like, oh, no, he's gay. He wouldn't have liked a girl. Rather than change the dialogue in that scene, they cut it completely. Mm. And she was asked, so, did Dumbledore ever fall in love? And she's like, no, he's gay. It's like...
Wait, what?
Hold up. What?
Wait, what?
Huh?
And I don't know if you've seen the other 2 movies, but I don't understand why anyone does anything. Mm-hmm. The magic in these movies, it's like it's magic. I understand this is the whole point of magic, but in the OG series, they actually had to like say things, and the spells meant something, and there was a finite number of spells. In these movies, they're just flying dishes everywhere. Everything's just being done by magic. It's like, what's the point of doing anything? Why do you get up in the morning? What just have everything just be in a Wall-E universe? And I understand. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the 1920s aesthetic, but I don't. It leaks into the wizarding world, and I don't understand why. Because again, in the OG series, it was more or less modern times. I think they canonically take place in the late 90s, early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And it's so more or less a modern world, and none of that leaked in. Hogwarts and that whole world had its own unique style because it was its own culture. And now, I don't know what happened between then and now, but now you have the cultures of the surrounding. Also, now we have more than one Ministry of Magic. That's very interesting. I don't know if that was always true, but they never said it. Just the aesthetic of all these cultures is bleeding into it. Does that imply? This just occurred to me, and as much as I hate to admit it, I'm going to need a 4th movie. Does that imply that Grindelwald succeeded a little bit? Did he separate the Muggle world enough? Did he purge it enough? Did he ethnically cleanse it enough so that the wizarding world had to basically fall back on its own style and not have this kind of infiltration? Even though there isn't really infiltration, I'm pretty sure that mixing hadn't happened at this point. at the time
Yeah.
I think at the time there was still no mixing. I think the wedding, a wedding between a Muggle and a non-Muggle hadn't happened yet. I never thought I'd get this passionate about the Wizarding World, but these movies have made me just so upset that they've taken this really good series. I like Harry Potter. I'm not a Potter head. I'm not crazy, but they took this. They took the world, and then they did it wrong.
She squandered it.
Seriously.
Because it was one thing for her to just show her worldview full out and let the other stuff leak in, and for her to put her foot down like that. Like, that's one thing.
Sure.
But for the continued works to be so bad. Just awful.
Yeah,
like Cursed Child is garbage.
Oh, is it? I haven't.
It's it's cartoonishly bad.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, like the bad time travel. That you're secretly this person's kid.
There's some of that in this too. Yeah.
And just Warner Brothers just really screwed the pooch on the whole thing too. With just how they've handled some of their stars off screen. Yeah. Ezra Miller's whole thing. Don't know what's up with him. He's going insane.
I just they had something cool, and now it's. I mean, even after the first one, I was like, "Ooh, this isn't going anywhere good." Then the second one was actually disastrous, and the third one they couldn't recover. So,
and the thing is I don't even think these will become like the new Star Wars prequels. You know, like the prequels eventually came around, and people are like, "No, actually, we all liked these all along." I think, and
is that true?
I thought so. I thought the prequels kind of.
I mean, they're okay.
Yeah.
But I agree, they're never going to be, or the Fantastic Beasts film will never be held in the same relative esteem as that. I will agree with that. And
I think even like the 8th season of Game of Thrones, I don't think that's going to bury that. It's because like at least that stopped digging.
Yes. It did stop digging. Yeah.
It's they hit bedrock and they're like, ooh. And with this, they're like, well, grab a pickaxe. We got further to go.
Yeah. I mean, they might not make a fourth one, but at this point, I think they just need to make. They were
slated for 5.
They were stupid. They were too stupid to make it just a trilogy. They could have just made it a trilogy. They could have ended with this one. Even now, just now, they could have just compressed the stories, because it took them 5 people to get a deer up a mountain.
Yeah.
That was the story. That was the plot. We need to get a deer up a mountain.
Fetch quests.
And we're wizards. And one of us is the most powerful one.
So why can't we just touch the deer and teleport to the top of the mountain? Well, you see, this mountain's in an anti-magic field. They wouldn't build character.
It's just so infuriating. It's so disappointing.
Yeah, because there are so many fun stories that could be told with magic.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't get told.
Mm-mm.
I think stories about magic should be pettier, bigger, and honestly stupider. But not in a bad way.
No.
Discworld, it just proves that people should read Discworld instead.
There you go.
Because Terry Pratchett wrote 40 books in that series.
That's so many books.
It's so many. They're not that long.
Okay.
Came up with amazing concepts. Wrote books within the series that would go back and explain the discrepancies and inconsistencies in previous books.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It's a
Even
great
the Bible
thing.
did that one. It's a trick as old as time. We need to clear some things up, guy.
Oh, haven't you heard?
And then Mormons did it again.
Oh my gosh. I had a couple Mormons come to my door.
Ooh.
And it's so hard to believe in Jesus and tell them, yes, I believe in Jesus, but not in your way. And there's nothing you can say to make me believe it in your way. I do feel bad for him, because that has to be one of the weirdest experiences. To have to go door to door.
Oh yeah. I mean, I went through fundraisers selling magazines and wrapping paper.
Yeah,
that was brutal. Imagine trying to change someone's entire system of belief. Do you think that ever works? I mean, it must. That's why they keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think no. They just believe that they have to try.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it doesn't work.
Yeah,
but it just checks a box.
I don't know if it would be in the Book of Mormon as well, but there are definitely verses that are like, yeah, you just have to spread the word. If they don't believe it, you dust your shoes off and you go to the next town.
Yeah, you tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you can get into stuff like Calvinism that's like, well, there's only a set number of people who will be saved, and they've been chosen since the beginning of time, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's certainly fascinating.
And to think, some people made a whole career going door to door to sell things.
Oh, incredible.
It's so much more convenient today when we can do it over a podcast.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Well, I suppose you want to know the sponsor of today's episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, today's episode of Steaming Pile is brought to you by Jeans. Now, because this is an ad read and I'm not putting this on the screen in post, you don't know if I mean jeans as in pants or jeans as in genetics. But I'm going to go ahead and clear it up for you just so that there's no confusion. Oop, hit my microphone. Just so there's no confusion, all right? So let me clear up for you. Everyone has a pair, right? They can be dyed blue. Your parents provided you jeans when you were young. Good jeans are hard to find because once you have them, everyone wants them, and you're more attractive if you have good jeans. So go be sure to check out Jeans. Which kind? I'm not telling. Good luck.
I love that. Because I think in both cases, we have that. And that's why people are watching. We haven't proved one of those two. But we'll just have to unzip those in the next episode.
Oh, oh, you.
This has been Steaming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I've been Lauren.
And I have been Tucker.
And we will see you all next time.